I'm running for President of the United States because I am ready to be Commander-in-Chief on day one.
He wants to know, what's the president going to do on day one, the next president? Senator Lindsey Graham thinks he can be that guy, announcing his bid yesterday. Could his national security experience, and he does have a lot of that, work in his favor come primary season, or will he need more help to climb in the polls? That's a great place to start this version of our roundtable. And with us now, Stephen Cobb, the former general counsel to the Democratic Party of Virginia, and also Javier Manjarres, managing editor of shark-tank.com. Javier, Stephen, great to see you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us back.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about Senator Graham's national security experience. Do you think, considering where he's going to probably wind up in the early polling, is this going to work in his favor, or is he going to need something else to cut through the quote-unquote muddled mass, as the Washington Post says? Stephen, what do you say?
Well, I think he's going to have a hard road ahead of him, but this is going to create a really interesting dynamic in the Republican primary. A lot of pundits have weighed in on kind of the friction that exists between his views on national security and foreign affairs and that of, in particularly, Rand Paul. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that dialogue between those two viewpoints impacts the entirety of the debate. But whether or not Senator Graham is in this for the long haul, it's going to, the standard fundraising, it's going to have a ground game, it's going to be him branching out just besides that one issue if he's going to be there till the end.
Well, Javier, we heard Lindsey Graham also call for more boots on the ground in a very explicit way yesterday. I mean, we saw the GOP establishment more or less lining up behind this idea, this very hawkish idea. Is Lindsey Graham striking the right chord here?
Well, listen, this is his issue. He is one of these foreign policy hawks. Aside from that, I don't know where his candidacy is going. Look, if he makes it to South Carolina, he'll make it very interesting because this is his state, and he's very popular in that state. Right now, Rubio's pulling well, so is Ted Cruz. But again, Lindsey Graham could throw a wrench in someone's campaign there. So, but I don't think he'll make it that far. I don't think he'll be able to get very far in Iowa or New Hampshire. Now,
there is another issue, too, we can expect to hear from Lindsey Graham on a lot. He's fought very hard for online gambling bans here in the United States. In 2014, he introduced a bill to ban online gambling across the United States, and the Washington Post says this view will be central to his campaign, especially because one of the most important men on the GOP donor landscape is Sheldon Adelson. He has also come out, he's a casino magnate in Las Vegas and not a fan of online gambling. Do you think Lindsey Graham can lock up the support of Sheldon Adelson and basically get the Newt Gingrich treatment that he received in 2012?
Well, I don't think so. I think Adelson is already in Rubio's corner. I think from what I'm understanding is Adelson has a big admiration of Senator Rubio. But again, anything could happen. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of 2012 with Newt Gingrich. I don't see this happening. I think Adelson backs Rubio at this point.
What do you think, Stephen?
Well, Sheldon Adelson being the casino magnate that he is, I bet that he hedges his bets. I think he will probably get behind more than just one GOP candidate and just to see kind of how things play out. I don't know whether or not that's going to be Lindsey Graham, but I think you can, at least at the beginning, anticipate to see him throwing his support behind more than just one person.
Fair enough.
All right, guys, let's shift from gambling to guns. True Detective star Vince Vaughn is packing the heat. At least that's according to the cover of British GQ's magazine version. In an interview with the magazine, Vaughn says that mass shootings only happen in places that don't want guns because shooters don't want confrontation. He says, quote, "In all of our schools, it is illegal to have guns on campus. So again and again, these guys go and shoot up these schools because they know there are no guns there. There are monsters killing 6-year-olds." Let's start with you, Javier. Are you surprised at all by his stance?
No, I know he's a very proponent of the Second Amendment, and there's truth to what he says. Look at the crime rates in Washington and D.C. The crime rates are through the roof, and that's a no-gun city. Wherever you go, wherever there's a ban on guns or anything to that sort, you're going to have a higher crime level than any other state or city in the country. It just goes without saying.
Well, his hometown is also Chicago, which has also been plagued by gun violence. Stephen, what do you think? Bad idea for Vaughn to weigh in like this?
Well, he's free to express his opinion. I loved him in the movie Swingers, but I disagree with him here. I think he makes an oversimplistic view of a very complicated and very serious issue. I think smart and sensible gun control is something that we should all be able to get behind, and reasonable restrictions in order for the safety of particularly kids in school is paramount, and I would have hoped that he would have recognized that.
Yeah, well, he also called Edward Snowden a hero in that interview. So, you know, gun issue, Edward Snowden, Vince Vaughn Wayne in there, but interesting take anyway on guns. And guys, we're going to continue with our magazine theme when we come back for the second part of this roundtable.
We've got a good one for you.
We're going to talk about Caitlin. We got to talk about Caitlin in the cover of Vanity Fair.
Javier, I know you're excited.
You guys are jumping the shark.
Try to hold your excitement.
Jumping the Shark? Or is that a plug for your website?
No,
Javier?
it's not.
Do you have a Jumping the Shark segment on your website?
No, I do not. But you know, you'll make the first segment.
All right, it will be my honor. But we want to have you guys back. We know that prior, Bruce Jenner said he was a Republican. What about Caitlyn Jenner? Is there room underneath the big tent for everybody?
We'll be right back. And welcome back to part 2 of our roundtable. And joining us once again, managing editor for the Shark Tank, Javier Manjarres, and attorney and former general counsel to the Democratic Party of Virginia, Stephen Cobb. Thanks for sticking around.
All right, guys, let's delve into this topic. Caitlyn Jenner. Before she made her transition, she had this to say, or I guess back then he had this to say, Bruce Jenner, about his political affiliation.
But not to get political, I've just never been a big fan of, kind of more on the conservative side.
Are you a Republican?
Yeah. Is that a bad thing? I believe in the Constitution.
No.
We all believe in the Constitution.
I think she was a little shocked by his response. I'm not shocked at all.
Well, the question Diane Sawyer asked is kind of weird, too. Are you a Republican? Oh, my God.
No,
I guess
I
she was
think
a
it
bit
was
surprised. But no, let's talk about this a little bit, because yesterday, as we all know now, Caitlyn Jenner publicly came forward with her new identity on the cover of Vanity Fair. And as the GOP, Miranda, tries to become more inclusive here, how will Republican candidates address Caitlyn Jenner, who claims she is a Republican? Javier, should they address this issue at all?
I think first and foremost, he said it himself. He or she said it best himself or her, that he's an American. He believes in the Constitution. So I don't think anyone's going to have an issue with any American who wants to abide by the Constitution.
Well, we know that's not necessarily true, that some people are going to have an issue with this because people continue to have an issue with you know, we just see the GOP, how they're trying to come to grips with the idea of gay marriage. But Stephen, do you expect any kind of reaction or anybody to, I guess, for lack of a better term, take the bait here and jump into the fray?
Well, I'm not sure who would take the bait. The GOP as a whole is largely out of touch with LGBT issues, and you know, Micah Huckabee's recent and insensitive comments toward the transgender community, I think poses a continued problem there. In order for the GOP to be more inclusive, they first need to change the rhetoric, and second need to change some of the policy stances.
That just, I'll do respect.
Community.
That's just plain ignorance, because Mr. Cobb is speaking for saying that the entire Republican Party. I don't think that's the case.
Let's talk about it.
I think we've seen people like Senator Rubio, who has come out and said he doesn't care about.
But he also said Rubio. Rubio also said that Christianity was.
It's part of the GOP platform.
And that was mischaracterized by a lot of liberal outlets. But let me just say, not all Republicans are against gay marriage, and not all Republicans are against LGBT issues, which is one and all the gay marriage issue.
But Javier, doesn't the official GOP platform still say that it defines marriage as a institution between a man and a woman?
Yeah.
Should they change that?
You know what? Like everything, it can come up to a vote, and if it does, so be it. It's not going to change the mind of other Republicans or conservatives like myself. I personally don't care. Listen, I've always said it. If a man or a woman want to get married and lose half the money that they've made, like the rest of us heterosexuals, so be it. And it's their right to. I really don't care about it. And I'm one of those Republicans Mr. Cobb speaks of.
Stephen, do you think this?
Well, I mean, that's fine, and you know, I applaud Javier to the extent that he supports those marriage rights, but to that point, it is part of the GOP platform. And so when I talk about changing the policy position, that is exactly what I'm referring to. It is the platform of the GOP, and that's going to be something that needs to be changed if, as a party, they intend to be more inclusive going forward. And
meantime, on the other, this is an issue that Democrats, Stephen, can hold up here, because you look at the state of New York, and they are working actively on a bill now that would specifically outline transgender rights in that state. I don't know if this is going to come up as a debate topic. Imagine, somebody like Hillary Clinton could throw it out there and throw it up in the face of Republicans, but Democrats can point out to specific legislation that's being worked on, like in the state of New York. What do you think, Stephen?
Well, I think LGBT rights and reaching out to that community is always going to be very important, and it's been something the Democratic Party has been a proud leader in. And so I think you can expect to see that highlighted to an extent. How that fits in to an overarching presidential debate, I'm not sure, and I think we're kind of a ways out before we see some of those issues and debates play out as to what will be the focal points.
It may be a ways out, but again, I don't know, considering how quickly the landscape seemed to change. Have President Obama saying he thought marriage was between a man and a woman back in 2008, and here
But
we've seen his
I think he was
evolution
smart
on
to
the
let
issue.
the state
He evolved. The president
decide.
evolved just like all Democrats do. They evolve on their issues.
Right, but I think it was a
Well,
good
we
move
could
to
only
let-
hope that the GOP would evolve in such an enlightened manner also.
Right. Okay. Let's flip flop. Let's all flip
So
flop.
basically, I'm not surprised. Going back to what Diane Sawyer, her reaction, I'm not surprised when I hear people who are part of the LGBT community when they say that they're Republican, because I think a lot of them will vote Republican because they agree with him on the economic issues. Wouldn't you agree, Javier?
I agree. And listen, and I have a lot of friends who are of the gay persuasion. A lot of them don't believe in gay marriage. So they don't care about these issues. They say, tell me first, they're Americans first. They respect and adhere to the Constitution. Nothing more, nothing less. Their sexual preference has nothing to do with anything, or should it?
Well,
All right.
we know it has a lot to do with the debate. We thank
Right.
you guys for being with us. We'll see if the transgender issue comes up in the conversation about
Oh, we
marriage.
forgot to ask, what'd you guys think of the cover? Stephen, real quickly, did you like it? Did you see it?
He's very proud of her for going forward with her transition.
Javier?
Well, has she fully made that transition? Is she post-op
Not
or
fully,
pre-op?
but
Okay,
just the
then
cover.
then
Thank
he.
you both.
Then
We're out
he.
of time.